there are rules as far as where you have to be in order for a rep to count when we're doing long cycle, which is the clean and jerk to overhead, right? So we have to go, the bell has to go back. It can go between your legs or outside your legs, doesn't matter. It has to go back into the rack position. Now, I have bent knees right here. If I don't lock my knees out before I go to my jerk, my rep doesn't count, okay? So we have to stand up to that tall rack position, stacked and racked, right? Where we've got the center of gravity of the bell connected to the shoulder and elbow, elbow connected to hip, hip stacked over knee, knee stacked over foot, right? So we're stacked and racked here with our legs straight so that when it's time to go to our bump, to launch overhead, we unlock the knees, just like we do on the catch of the clean, right? We can go a little bit deeper here because this isn't a force absorption clean. This is or force absorption dip. This is a force production dip, right? So we do a small dip and get ready to launch the bell overhead. And when we launch to overhead, we catch with bent knees, right? And in order for the rep to count, we have to stand up and straighten our knees with this all stacked, and this doesn't have to be for 3 seconds. It just has to stop overhead in what we call fixation. There is no set period of time that it has to be there, but the judge has to see that the bell stopped overhead without any wobble. It's not doing this, right? It's stopped, it's still, my knees are extended, my elbow is as extended as it can be on this side, right? So I have to tell my judge ahead of time, hey, this elbow doesn't go all the way straight, and I tell them that because when I switch to the other side, right, or if I'm doing double bell, it becomes readily apparent when I go overhead, right, this is a much straighter line because this elbow doesn't have the old football injury, right? But I still have to be knees straight, elbow straight, bell fixated, which means stopped. No wobble, right? It doesn't have to be stacked over your skeleton like this. You can get fixation out here. It's just really hard because the center of gravity of the bell is the bottom. So the further you are away from your center line, the more it wants to go that way, right? So this is where we try and stack our lines, right? So this is why when we're in rack position, I say stacked and racked, right? Because I want your skeleton stacked here, right? We want heel of hand, the heel of our hand inserted deep into the corner of the bell, right? So that it's sitting on this part. Forearm is nice and relaxed. Elbow connected to hip, right? So the center of gravity of the bell is connected to the elbow, which is connected to the hip, which is connected to the knee, which is connected to the ankle and the floor, or foot, right? Foot and floor. All right, so here, everything's straight, we're stacked and racked, we're ready to go. We do our bump, launch, overhead fixation, get the count from the judge. Hi, judge. Back down. We don't have to say hi. We don't wave, but you want to make eye contact with your judge and make sure that you get fixation, because nothing sucks worse than going from here to here to here, and then because you're in a hurry to get to your next rep, that one didn't count because you didn't fully stop overhead, and you don't realize until you've already started your next rep that the judge didn't count it yet, or is giving you a no count because you didn't fully fixate. That really sucks.
Who's the judge?
Depends. You have a judge for every set that you do in competition. There's an assigned judge to your table or to your platform, right? And so you might have a different judge for every set that you do. You might have the same judge for every set that you do. You might only be doing one set at the competition, right? But that overhead fixation piece is really important, and that's why we work on that in the long cycle drill, right? Is so that we get used to getting our legs fully extended. We do a force absorb. We don't want to catch on straight legs, right? I don't want to catch on straight legs because what if we have all of our joints fully locked out, what does that do? That puts all of the stress into our joints, right? So when we're absorbing force, we want to engage our muscles to do that because these are like our springs, right? So we bend our legs a little bit to absorb force with our legs, but then we have to extend, because then when we're in rack position, we actually want our joints and our skeleton to bear most of the weight, because that's what our skeleton is designed for, and we want to try and turn our muscles off as much as we can until it's time to work again, right? Because the places that we want to rest, in long cycle especially, are here in the rack position, right? Because if you're out of breath with the bell here, you can go and let your skeleton support the weight of this bell until you're ready to go overhead. And then we go, and then we lock out. We can take breaths overhead too, right? This is going to be harder because your shoulder muscles now are having to work to keep the bell still overhead. So we don't want to spend a lot of time doing recovery breaths overhead, but that can be helpful too sometimes, right? But especially if you've got a finicky judge who really wants to make sure that you're stopped overhead, then what I recommend is you clean, you get ready to go, and you do an extra breath overhead. Look at your judge, make sure that you get the count, and then you start your next rep. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.